August 20th, 1989, two brothers walked into their Beverly Hills mansion and brutally executed their own parents with shotguns. 15 shots fired at close range. Blood covering the family room walls. A multimillion-dollar inheritance waiting to be claimed. For months, Lyle and Erik Menendez played the role of grieving sons. They cried on television. They begged for justice. They spent $700,000 of their parents' money in just 6 months. But what if everything you think you know about this case is wrong? What if these weren't cold-blooded killers hunting for money? What if they were desperate victims fighting for their lives against a monster they called father?
Usually with me, he'd open the sliding glass window and he'd just throw me outside. And my brother sort of just wandered into the area, and my dad just hit him across the face, and my brother just went flying.
Two brothers, two shotguns, two completely different stories. One claims greed drove them to murder. The other reveals decades of horrific sexual abuse that pushed them to the breaking point. Two trials, two different outcomes, a nation divided on who to believe. But in 2025, explosive new evidence has emerged that could change everything. Evidence that might finally answer the question that has haunted America for over 30 years. Were Lyle and Erik Menendez victims? Were killers? The truth will shock you. The evidence will disturb you. And by the end of the story, you'll understand why this case has obsessed the world for decades. Because sometimes the line between victim and killer is thinner than you think. 722 North Elm Drive, Beverly Hills. A $5 million mansion where dreams came to die. José Menendez wasn't just wealthy, he was unstoppable. A Cuban refugee who clawed his way from nothing to become a multimillionaire entertainment executive. The American dream personified. His wife Kitty was picture perfect. Former beauty queen, devoted mother, the kind of woman who threw lavish dinner parties and smiled for every camera. And their sons? Golden boys. Lyle at Princeton University. Erik with a tennis ranking that promised professional stardom. Everything money could buy: private coaches, $100,000 cars, unlimited credit cards. But on August 20th, 1989, paradise became a slaughterhouse. José was watching television in the family room when the first blast ripped through his skull. Point-blank range. No warning. No chance to run. Kitty tried to escape. She crawled across the floor, blood streaming from her wounds, begging for her life. The second shooter followed her, reloaded, and fired again. 15 shotgun blasts total. The walls were painted red. Flesh and bone scattered across Italian marble floors. This wasn't a burglary gone wrong. This was an execution. At 11:47 p.m., a frantic 911 call shattered the silence.
Beverly Hills emergency?
Yes, please.
What's the problem? What's the problem? What's the problem?
Someone killed my parents.
Pardon me?
Someone killed my parents.
What? Who? Are they still there?
Yes.
The people...
No.
Were they shot?
Hey, man, too.
Were they shot?
Yes.
They were shot?
Yes.
What happened?
Stay down,
Is the person still there?
What happened? We have units around. What happened? Who shot who? I don't know. I just came home. You came home and found who shot? Mom and Dad.
You know what? They're still in the house, the people that did the shooting.
Get away from him. Okay, hang on. Who is the person that was shot? My mom and my dad. Your mom and dad?
Two young men, sobbing uncontrollably, claimed they'd just returned from a movie. Batman. They'd bought tickets, they said. They had alibis. Lyle and Erik Menendez were inconsolable. They collapsed at the crime scene. They wept for the cameras. They begged the police to find their parents' killer. America's hearts broke for these grieving sons. But investigators were already asking questions. 15 shotgun blasts suggested rage, not robbery. Nothing was stolen. No signs of forced entry. And there was something else. Something disturbing. The brothers were the sole beneficiaries of a $14 million estate. What happened next would shock the nation. Instead of mourning, the Menendez brothers went on the spending spree of a lifetime. $15,000 Rolex watches, a $64,000 Porsche, first-class trips to London and the Caribbean, courtside seats at NBA games, $50,000 for a full-time tennis coach. In just 6 months, they burned through $700,000 of their dead parents' money. Erik moved to Marina del Rey, renting a luxury condo. Lyle bought expensive suits and enrolled at Princeton. They ate at 5-star restaurants every night. Were these the actions of grieving sons? The public started to whisper. Soon, everyone was demanding the truth. The brothers' explanation? They were coping with trauma. The money helped them deal with grief. But investigators weren't buying it. Beverly Hills police launched a full-scale investigation. They analyzed blood spatter patterns. They studied ballistics. They followed the money trail. Every clue pointed to the same shocking conclusion. March 1990, 7 months after the murders. Erik Menendez was falling apart. The guilt was eating him alive. He couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't live with what he'd done. So he did something unthinkable. He confessed. Not to the police, not to prosecutors, to his therapist. Dr. Jerome Oziel was a prominent Beverly Hills psychologist. Confidential sessions, professional secrecy, the perfect place to unburden a guilty soul. Erik walked into Oziel's office and shattered the silence. "We killed our parents." He revealed everything. The planning, the execution, how they bought the shotguns, how they waited for the perfect moment, how they pulled the triggers without hesitation. But Erik made one fatal mistake. He brought Lyle to the next session. And Dr. Oziel was secretly recording everything. The tapes were dynamite, hours of detailed confessions. Both brothers admitted to murder, describing the blood, the screams, the cover-up. But there was a problem. Doctor-patient privilege meant the tapes couldn't be used in court. Oziel couldn't tell anyone what he'd heard. Or could he? Oziel was having an affair with his patient coordinator, a woman named Judalon Smith. Beautiful, manipulative, and dangerously unstable. He told her everything. About the confessions, about the tapes, about the secret he was keeping. That decision would destroy the Menendez brothers forever. On March 8, 1990, Judalon Smith walked into the Beverly Hills Police Department with information that would crack the case wide open. She'd broken up with Dr. Oziel, and now she wanted revenge. The Menendez brothers confessed to their therapist. He has it all on tape. Within hours, police had search warrants. They raided Oziel's office, seized his recording equipment, found the confession tapes. The secret was out. Lyle was arrested immediately. Erik, who was playing in a tennis tournament in Israel, surrendered 3 days later. For the first time, the shocking truth was revealed to the world. The Menendez brothers had murdered their own parents. The trial of the century was about to begin. Prosecutors had everything: confession tapes, financial motive, physical evidence. No alibi. It seemed like an open-and-shut case. 2 spoiled rich kids who murdered for money. Death penalty cases had been built on less. But the defense had one final card to play, one that would divide America forever. In October 1993, Los Angeles Superior Court. Defense attorney Leslie Abramson stood before the jury with a bombshell so explosive it would rewrite everything Americans thought they knew about the Menendez brothers.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Menendez killed their parents. We are not disputing where it happened, how it happened, who did it. We're not disputing when it happened. The only thing that you are going to have to focus on in this trial is why it happened. And the prosecution has suggested to you that it was done for money. It was done to commit the perfect crime. It was done possibly out of hatred. And what we will prove to you is it was done out of fear. His father had always picked his schools, his friends, tried to control his girlfriends, decided where he was going to work, what his future was going to be, and had talked of his plans to buy a compound in Florida. If this wasn't about money, then what was it about? Erik Menendez told his brother Lyle Menendez that he couldn't stand it any longer. His father had been molesting him for 12 years. It had gotten more violent, and he couldn't take it.
The courtroom fell silent. José Menendez, the successful businessman, was a monster, a sexual predator who had systematically abused both his sons from childhood. Erik took the stand first. Trembling, barely audible, he described years of rape, sodomy, torture that began when he was just 6 years old. He would take me to his room. He would touch me, and then he would rape me. The nation watched in horror. Lyle's testimony was even more devastating. He revealed that José hadn't just abused them sexually. He'd psychologically tormented them for decades. He told us we were nothing, that we'd never amount to anything, that if we ever told anyone, he would kill us. But there was more. The brothers claimed Kitty knew about the abuse. Not only did she fail to protect them, she participated in the psychological torture. The perfect family was a lie. Behind closed doors, 722 North Elm Drive was a house of horrors. The abuse testimony changed everything. Suddenly, the spending spree made sense. These weren't greedy killers. They were trauma victims trying to buy happiness they'd never experienced. The brutal murder made sense. 15 shotgun blasts weren't overkill. They were years of rage finally exploding. The nation was divided. Half believed the brothers were calculating killers who invented sob stories to avoid death row. Half believed they were desperate victims who'd finally fought back against their tormentor. The first trial ended in hung juries. America couldn't decide who was telling the truth. But prosecutors weren't giving up. The second trial would be different. Stricter rules. Limited testimony about alleged abuse. No cameras in the courtroom. Judge Stanley Weisberg ruled that most abuse evidence was inadmissible. The graphic testimony that had shocked America was now silenced. The brothers looked defeated, broken. Their lifeline had been cut. Public opinion shifted dramatically. Without the emotional abuse testimony, they looked like cold-blooded killers again. Protesters gathered outside the courthouse, demanding justice for José and Kitty. The media painted them as manipulative psychopaths who had fooled an entire nation. Former supporters turned their backs. The brothers' defense collapsed. March 20, 1996. Guilty verdicts on first-degree murder. Life sentences without the possibility of parole. Lyle and Erik Menendez, now in their 50s, have spent the last 30 years in prison. Separated. No contact. No hope of freedom. The case seemed closed forever. But in 2024, everything changed. New evidence emerged that shocked even veteran prosecutors. Evidence that prosecutors had hidden during the original trial. A letter, written by Erik to his cousin 8 months before the murders. A letter that detailed the ongoing sexual abuse. "I've been trying to avoid Dad. It's still happening, Andy. But it's worse for me now. I can't explain it, but he's crazy." The letter proved the abuse was real, documented, happening right up until the murders. But there was more. Roy Rossello, a member of the Puerto Rican boy band Menudo, came forward with devastating testimony. He revealed that José Menendez had raped him during the 1980s when José was an RCA Records executive. The pattern was clear. José wasn't just abusing his sons. He was a serial predator. October 2024. Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gaskin announced he was recommending resentencing for the Menendez brothers. After reviewing new evidence, we believe justice may require a different outcome. The brothers' lawyers filed for immediate release. They argued that modern understanding of childhood sexual abuse would have changed the verdict in 1996. Victims' rights advocates are demanding freedom. Prosecutors from the original trial are fighting to keep them locked up. The nation is divided again. Today, in 2025, Lyle and Erik Menendez sit in separate prison cells, waiting to learn if they'll spend the rest of their lives behind bars or walk free after 35 years. But here's where it gets complicated. Some say the evidence is overwhelming and the abuse was real. The trauma was devastating. But others ask, why did this evidence only surface 35 years later? Why wasn't it compelling enough in the 1990s? Is the 1988 letter genuine or a convenient fabrication? Can we trust Roy Rossello's testimony after decades of silence? Are we being manipulated by skilled lawyers and media narratives? In May 2025, after decades of legal battles, a judge reduced their sentences to 50 years to life, making them eligible for parole for the first time. On August 21, 2025, and August 22, 2025, Erik and Lyle faced their first-ever parole hearings. Prosecutors argued they should remain locked up. Defense lawyers painted them as reformed men who deserved freedom. The parole board denied both brothers. Today, in 2025, Lyle and Erik Menendez remain in separate prison cells after their parole was denied just months ago. The Menendez brothers will be eligible for parole again in the future. The debate will continue. The nation will remain divided. And in this case, even after 35 years of investigations, trials, and hearings, we still don't know who to believe. The Menendez brothers' rest of family members and relatives' opinion on them will shock you. Check the pinned comment for that, and also comment your thoughts that Menendez brothers should be free or not. And don't forget to subscribe.